want to build better, stronger bones for a stronger future? This video is for you. Hey, I'm Debra Atkinson, founder of Flipping 50, and I've been working with midlife women and beyond for 41 years. But for the last 12, we've been concentrated and focused on women over 40 in perimenopause to postmenopause because estrogen goes down. That is your insurance policy for bone density. So we've got to do something else to replace that insurance policy. 4 things that will help you when it comes to exercise. Stay with me and I'll give you some bonus things at the end that are less related to building bone density, but equally important. Number 1, I'm wearing a weighted vest. Now, they are all the rage right now. Recently, I released a video talking about weighted vests. If you want one, why you want one, what it will do, what it won't do, and what weight to start at, go watch that for the details. But what I'm going to share with you is the one that you use for walking might not be the best one for you in weight training. Now, not everybody wants to invest in 2, but I want you to think if you're investing in a weighted vest, why you might be doing it. So the first thing that we all want to do is be doing resistance training. That means weight training ideally, picking up heavy weights. I know some of you will say, well, what about bands and tubing or TRX, suspension training, body weight? What about those things? And I would say, yes, what about them? They are resistance training, but they're not going to do your bone as much good as actually picking up heavy load. So that's the key. We're looking at a repetition range, and if we can start you higher, because that's safer, and over time, in the course of even months and even up to a year, using moderates will still get results. You can see that in the research. 15, 16 repetitions to muscle fatigue still gets results to about 48 weeks, and then you may plateau and need to go heavier. Or if you can't go heavier, you might want to look at something like a whole body vibration as a way to get better results without overloading joints that may not be able to take the stress. So resistance training, we're talking for the body. Specifically, we want to target our hip, our spine, and our forearm, the 3 zones that will be most likely to fracture. How do we do that? Well, we do that by doing leg press or at home squats and lunges, deadlifts with weight. So I might have this big boy here, and I'm holding that while I'm using my weighted vest so that I'm weighting my hips a little more than if I'm just using a weight all by itself or just using a weighted vest. The combination of the 2 allows me to weight a little more. Now, here's another trick. You may find if I go to the gym, I can do a leg press and much heavier. But if I'm at home, it's harder to fatigue. Slow it down. Slow down, hold that at the bottom, and then push up with a little bit more explosiveness. We call that power because speed and strength together will give you better bone density results. That too is proven in science. And look, I'm not quoting the scientific journal, but you cannot teach internationally or teach at a university without science. So it's there, I promise you. Here's the deal. This vest is super light, so it's about 10% my body weight. Now, if I'm walking, that makes sense and it's smart. But if I'm doing this for weightlifting and I want to load my legs, I can go a little heavier. So I actually have a 20-pound vest. I weigh about 130 pounds. And that's better because I'm adding more weight to the weight I can hold in my hands. And at some point, we're going to get limited. We can only hold so much. And you may not want to go shopping for more weights. So there's that. If you're at home, that's a great solution. If you're going to the gym, you're using a leg press, you're fine, right? You don't need a weighted vest. That's not necessarily going to add bone density to you otherwise. Resistance training, 2 times total body every week. That's your key. 3 times might be okay for you as long as you're not throwing yourself under the bus and getting exhausted. You have to think about, I need 2. 2 will give me bone density benefits if I'm reaching muscular fatigue or coming close to it. The second thing we're going to talk about. So number 1, resistance training. Get that on your list. It's a must. Number 2 is impact training. Some of us can't do impact training because we may have rheumatoid arthritis, or we've got joints and ligaments like a knee replacement or hip replacement, and your surgeon said, don't screw up that pretty work. So you can stomp. You can stomp your foot. And you can also do heel lifts and drops. So we come up as high as you can, and we drop down to our heels. So we're actually getting some stress. Now, if you go gently, you're not getting the stress. And that is about the minimum thing that you can do to get some impact. So you don't want to be being cautious. If you're really concerned about yourself and you think you're really fragile, make sure you know your bone density numbers, get some advice from the diagnostic who did that, the radiologist who read it, and or your physician about what would be good for you to do based on your numbers. But heel drops are the first low impact. Stomps are another one. You can stomp in place or you can stomp going upstairs. When you're doing that, you're getting more bone density. We do about 10 to 20 per set, 4 times, 5 to 7 days a week. So I'm going to say that again. You're going to do 10 to 20 of those heel drops. I'm going to take a little break for about a minute, come back and do my second set, and then continue to repeat for 4 sets. And I'm going to do that most days of the week. And you've got some impact training. Number 3, right? So we've got resistance training, get your weight training in. You've got impact training. And if you can jump, by all means do. And number 3 is be moving more during the day. I'm doing a video with you. I'm standing. And by doing that, I'm pacing just a little back and forth. When I do a master class, I'm looking at a prop here. It's my box where I prop my computer on so that I can stand while I'm doing that. That is more valuable for my bones because I'm countering gravity with more of my bone and skeletal structure than if I'm sitting. So there's off the couch, standing up, there's walking, there's jumping or hopping, there's explosive, going side to side. We have this continuum of things that will give us more benefit, but you don't have to be exercising to get bone benefit. There is proof that those people who are more active, and I mean movement here, not necessarily exercise, for more minutes during a week have lower risk of bone loss. So you're preserving your bone density that you have now by continually moving through the day. Don't have to be compulsive or obsessive about it, but think about every opportunity to, if somebody needs to take the dog out, be the one who volunteers to do it because it's great for your bones, not just for your relationships. So there's 3 things. Got them all? Get that resistance training in twice weekly. Get your jump training or impact training in that you can tolerate up to 5 to 7 days a week. So most days. Get movement most days. Be as active as you can. Now, we all have travel days. I came back from Moab in a retreat the other day, and I spent 8 hours in the car. There was not a lot of movement that day. But the 4 days prior to that, there'd been extra movement. So sometimes it will balance out, and we also need rest. Don't be afraid or think, I didn't move much today. A day is a day. You're going to be fine. The 4th thing is something that may surprise you. Dr. Lauren Fishman finished a study, I believe it was in 2015, showing 12 daily yoga poses. And by the way, this is 12 minutes of daily yoga poses, 1 minute each for each of 12 poses. One of them is the corpse pose lying on your back. That was the reward, he told me in an interview. But there is proof that a longitudinal study using these with postmenopausal women with osteoporosis doing 12 minutes a day daily yoga poses increased on average. The average increase was 1% bone density a year over 7 years. That's a really great result. Because if you think about losses occur at a rate of between 1% and 3% a year on average if we're not doing anything about it. And so the difference between +1 may not sound like a lot, but if that were as opposed to -3, that's a 4% difference. That's very significant. So yoga poses might be a great and. So maybe you can lift heavy, maybe you can do impact training, maybe you are fairly active and don't sit down much during the day, but that yoga pose could be a kind of stress on your bones that you otherwise aren't getting. So take, for instance, you're doing a half moon pose. What does that mean? You're on one leg and your body really is laid out parallel. Your spine is parallel to the floor, to the ceiling. You're resisting gravity in a very different way than when you're upright. And what's happening in yoga is you're creating tension in muscles. The muscle itself is pulling on the bone, and you are countering gravity. The effects of gravity, when we remove it, if we take athletes and put them in the water or on a bike, remember Lance Armstrong, strongest man in the world, so they said, but he had low bone density and osteoporosis because he spent so much time unweighted on a bicycle. Even though he was powerful pushing uphill, it wasn't enough. So using feet on the ground, weight-bearing exercise, even in yoga, means that you're getting some ground force reaction and gravitational pull on the bone. So let that be comforting for those of you that can't do heavy or can't do impact. There is always a next thing. So in addition to heel drops or stomps, that yoga might be something you want to rely heavily on. Now, doing 24 minutes a day, probably not an increase. You just need the minute, so don't bite off more than you need to. Those 4 things actually all are proven to improve bone density benefits. Now, they are in order. I gave them to you in order of priority. Do what you can. Here's a couple tips though. Beyond that, it's not just about bone density. You know, the only way we're going to test that is once a year or twice a year, depending on your insurance, with a DEXA scan, or we're going to fall and find out, do I fracture or don't I? How about we don't test it that way? Because I don't love that final exam. I don't know about you, but what if we don't fall in the first place? So what I want you to do is focus on activities that cause you to move your feet quickly, that cause you to respond and react. If you play pickleball, racquetball, or tennis, you're getting a little bit of that. Badminton also, you have to respond to something coming at you. Playing ball or catch with small children, that could do it too, right? You know, when they throw all over the place. So all of those things, reacting, responding to a dog, fast feet. Just be careful. If you're vulnerable to falling, don't have great balance, you want to be careful about walking a dog. So agility is very important, and so is mobility. We have 3 places where your mobility really matters: the ankle, the hip, and the upper body. So your back and mobility, this is where we're supposed to have it, in the upper back, not in the lower back. If your lower back bothers you, that usually is a sign we have upper back mobility limitations or hip mobility limitations. So don't start with moving the lower back and stretching it. Start with mobility here and here, and you may find your lower back actually starts feeling better. So I hope that was helpful, a lot of information, but focus on bone density building and focus on the things that will keep you from falling in the first place. Let's not find out where your bones are the bad way. All right, drop your questions down below. Don't forget to hit the bell and subscribe, and I will see you on the flip side.